Hi, this is Mrs. Robertson, and today we are going to learn how to add and subtract decimals, which I think most of you already know how to do, but we're going to touch upon it again today, go over vocabulary and the specifics just to make sure you really do know what you're doing. This is Chapter 3, Lesson 1, located on page 177. All right, we have our real world link. It says, one event in competitive swimming is the women's 100-meter butterfly. The table shows the times of different swimmers at a recent Olympic event here. So we have Miss Trickett, 56.73, and Miss Sylvia, 58 and 10/100ths. It says, you can use place value charts to compare the results. So let's look at these place value charts. There's one up along the top of my board up there. We have our decimal point. Put a decimal point right there. Ones, tens. The first place behind the decimal point's the tenths, and the second one is the hundredths. So it says it took Christine 37/100ths of a second longer to finish than Miss Trickett. What was Magnuson's time in seconds? So you add these together. 11, carry a 1, and you have 57 and 10/100 seconds. The second example, at a high school meet, a swimmer swam the women's 100-meter butterfly in 72 and 34/100 seconds. How many seconds faster did Gabriela Silva swim her race? Well, here we subtract, line up your decimal points as you can tell that they did, and you have 14 and 24/100 seconds. Let's turn the page. And let's look at the top, add decimals. To add decimals, you line up the decimal points, then add digits in the same place value position. All right, let's look at example 1. What did they do? They lined their decimal points up, and they have 28 and 9/10. Any questions on how they added those together? Okay, now in the next problem it says find the sum of these two numbers. Here they ask you to estimate. They go, well, 29.6 is close to 30, and 14.7 would be close to 15. 30 plus 15, the answer is going to be close to 45. All right, so let's line up the decimal points. Let's fill these in, students. 29.6, 14 and 7/10. Add them together, carry a 1, and we have 44 and 3/10. Now, is that close? Check for reasonableness. Is 44 and 3/10 close to 45? Yes, it is. So the sum is 44 and 3/10. Let's go ahead and do A, B, and C at the bottom. All right, students, you can go ahead and do these, and then I will give you the answer. I'm putting it on pause. Did you get 76 and 1/10? Thumbs up. Good. Did you get 37 and 7/10? Good. Did you get 50 and 8/10? Fabulous. Let's go on to the next page. In this page, we have example 3, 4, and 5. This is about subtracting decimals. To subtract decimals, line up the decimal points, then subtract digits in the same place value position. You may need to annex. Let's highlight this. Annex means include, or place zeros in the end of a at the end of a decimal in order to subtract. In other words, fill your empty spots with zeros. Okay. Annex is one of those fancy math words for to include it or to place it. So let's look at the first example. Yes, they lined their decimal points up, and they have 3 and 403 thousandths. Now they did do an estimate. They said they rounded it. They said 6 minus 2 would be close to 4. And the answer is 3.4. That is close. Okay, let's look at problem number 4. Now this one's one where you have to fill in the empty spots. So let's just write this one. 6, if there's not a decimal point there, kids, it goes at the back end of it. Minus 4 and 78 hundredths. Now you can tell I lined up my decimal points. Now, what do I put above the 7 and the 8? Yes, 2 zeros. That's right. You fill, they call it annex the empty spots with zeros. Now I'm going to borrow from the 6. It turns into a 5. That turns into a 10. So now I can borrow from the 10. It turns into a 9. So that is a 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. 9 minus 7 is 2. Don't forget your decimal point. 5 minus 4 is 1. And you have 1 and 22 hundredths. Any questions? Great. Let's go on to number 5. Okay. 23. Put a decimal point at the end of it. So the 2 and the 3 go here. And 4.216 will go there. Yes, they've lined up the decimal points, and I need to annex or include my zeros. Now we can go ahead and subtract. I have to borrow from the 3, it turns into a 2, that turns into a 10. Borrow from the 10, it turns into a 9, so that can turn into a 10. Borrow from the 10, it turns into a 9, so that can finally turn into a 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. 9 minus 1 is 8. 9 minus 2 is 7. Decimal point. 2 won't subtract 4. Borrow from the 2, it turns into a 1, so that can be a 12. 12 minus 4 is 8, and bring down the 1. And you get the answer, 18 and 784 thousandths. Any questions? Okay, let's do D, E, and F. All right, go ahead and do those problems. I'm going to do them, and then we'll check to make sure we did them correctly. If you want to do them with me on this one, you can. I want to make sure you are doing them correctly. Line your decimal point up. And we are subtracting. I'm going to freeze it here, and then you can check the other ones in just a moment. Did you get 10 and 81 hundredths for letter E when you line them up? All right. And then number 14, or letter F, you put the 14, put your decimal behind it. We've lined our decimal point up, but now we have to put in or annex 2 zeros. Borrow from the 4, it turns into a 3, that turns into a 10. Borrow from it, so that can be a 10. Minus 9 is 1. 9 minus 0 is 9. And 13 minus 9 is 4. Did you get 4 and 91 hundredths? Any questions on those? Do you see how to do them? Yes. Yes. Well, let's double check. One way I can check letter E is I add my difference to this number here. So let's see. Does 10.81 plus 39 and 81 hundredths equals 50.62. 6, carry a 1. Don't forget my 0. 10. Actually, my answer is right because when I add those, I do get 50.62. So you probably had a mistake in the borrowing. Okay, let's go to page 180. On this problem, example 6, we have a word problem. It says, Reagan is creating a video. The first video clip is 22 and 36 hundredths minutes long. The second video clip is 17 and 300ths minutes long. What is the total length? Well, they rounded 22 plus 17. It's going to be close to 39 minutes. Okay, so let's see what the exact answer is. Usually when they say total, it means you're going to add, kids. So we add them together and they have 39 and 39 hundredths. Now let's go ahead and look at letter G. Jonathan is traveling for work. This morning his GPS indicated the total distance to his destination is 589 and 4/10 miles. Before lunch he drove 208 and 62 hundredths miles. How much further does Jonathan need to travel? When it says how much further, you're going to subtract, kids. That's what you're going to do. So let's do that. Line your decimal points up. 589 and 4/10. I'm going to put my decimal points down. 208 and 62 hundredths. Okay. I have to do what? Add a 0 or annex a 0 in my empty spot. Now I can subtract. Borrow from the 4, it turns into a 3. That turns into a 10 minus 2 is 8. 3 will not subtract 6. Borrow from the 9, it turns into an 8, and that turns into a 13. 13 minus 6 is 7. Decimal point. 8 minus 8 is 0. 8 minus 0 is 8. And 5 minus 2 is 3. So he still has to go 380 and 78 hundredths, and don't forget your label, miles. Any questions on that? Okay, our guided practice, and then it'll be time for you to work on your homework for tonight. On these problems, you line them up, line your decimal point up. I'm going to put 14.7 on top, put my decimal point there. I've lined them up, and we are adding. 7 plus 9 is 16. Carry a 1 plus 4 is 5 plus 7 is 12. Carry a 1, and you have 102 and 6/10. Any questions on that? Good. This one, we're going to subtract. The second number always goes under the first one. I've lined my decimal points up. 5 minus 1 is 4. 6, don't forget the decimal point. 6 minus 4 is 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. 42 and 4/10. Any questions? All right, let's do our last one. I'm going to rewrite this whole problem. 52 and 1/10. 31 and 47 hundredths. Okay, I have to do what above the 7? Put a 0, very good, or annex a 0. Now borrow from the 1, it turns into a 0, so that can turn into a 10. 10 minus 7 is 3. 0 won't subtract 4. Borrow from the 2, it turns into a 1, so that can turn into a 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. 1 minus 1 is 0. 5 minus 3 is 2. And you have 20 and 63 hundredths. Now let's look, any questions? All right, let's do numbers 4 and 5. Grayson is making a snack mix for his family's camping trip. He added 14 and 52 hundredths ounces of peanuts and 27 and 35 ounces of granola. He needs to put in a little chocolate. How many ounces of snack mix does he have? Right now, before he adds any chocolate, he has 14 and 52 hundredths 27 and 35 hundredths. Add them together. Carry on. He has 41 and 87 hundredths ounces. Any questions? It says, how is estimation helpful when adding and subtracting decimals? How is it helpful, kids? Can you think of a reason why? Yes.
Like if you get it wrong, or if you got an estimate of 50, and your answer is around 100, then you'll be able to know if it's wrong.
Right. You'll know if your decimal point's off a little bit or not. Very good. Especially when you're dealing with money and shopping and you're trying to guess how much something's going to cost. It's always helpful in that way too. Okay, so what are we going to do for homework tonight? Classwork/homework if you don't get it finished. Independent practice on page 181. You're going to do all 10. All right, and then turn the page. On page 182, I want you to do problem number 11. I want you to find the error. I want you to do number 13. Those are the only problems to do on that page. And then on page 183, I would like for you to do 18 to 25. It won't take you that long to do these problems. You have 16 minutes, or no, 17. You have 18 minutes. You could probably get these all finished. You have about 18 problems to do. All right. Have a good day.